Why? Do you ever wonder why you take the photographs you do? We're going to find out why I was drawn back to this landscape to photograph these trees. Sometimes the images we see in the landscape carry much deeper reflections of what we see in life. So it was this tree that originally got me thinking about taking these photographs. As I was walking along the path during my last photo shoot, I saw this tree. You've already seen it, and to be honest, it is magnificent in a kind of ugly sort of way. It's not the most beautiful tree in the world, but what it is full of interest, and it really does look like it makes for a really good story. And somehow that sort of ugliness made me realize that this tree has seen a lot of people walk past. It's seen a lot of changes in the woodland and changes in the environment and everything around it. And it has a story to tell. And the way that it looks today, sort of half of its branches broken and snapped off, and yet that big strong base still there, really sort of like speaks to me, and it sort of cried out and asked to be photographed. It was the start of seeing a few different trees and a few different compositions. So this isn't the main one that I want to photograph today. There's about 3 that I want to look at. But we're going to take some pictures of this one now, and before we move on to the next tree, and I want to talk about that one in a bit more detail. So I'm going to set this composition up. I needed to stop and put this extension on the camera. There's a reason for it. It's not, if you know me, you'll know that this isn't the right way to use your tripod. But the reason I need to put this on is because I need to put the camera back up on get the camera as high up as I can. If I can get the camera nice and high up, I can tilt it forward. If I can tilt it forward, I can cut out some of that sky in the background. And that bright sky is a little bit of a distraction. Excuse me, I've got to get the camera again. So yeah, if you're short like me, get a tall tripod. Because with a viewfinder, you can at least still get the height that you can't necessarily get without it. There we go, that's a bit better. Then what I can do is just tilt this forward a bit. Sometimes it's difficult deciding on exactly how you're going to sort things out in the field, because occasionally you just can't get it quite right. And I'm trying to take that bright area of sky out at the top, but it's just not working and coming together very well. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a few pictures cropped in how I want to take them. Then I'm going to take a few wider views as well, because the other problem that I've got is that the branches on the left hand side that I want to go out to the side of the frame are lining up exactly with the corner in certain situations, and I'm not entirely sure if I want to create that area of tension right in the corner of the frame. I think I'd rather have them break the frame slightly further down, because obviously when something leaves the frame it draws your eye, and the corners are a very, very powerful place for that to happen. So I'm going to take this picture, and I'll show you the final results in a minute. It turned out okay in the end. The extra height of the tripod allowed me to exclude the brightest parts of the sky. I feel the photograph captures what I was trying to say. It was this tree that really got me to stop on the path last time I was out doing my photography. The path sort of runs behind where you are now. And it's this that sort of created that little seed of an idea about photography and what it actually meant, and whether or not we put our own why on the landscape around us. And what I mean by that is that this tree is reaching out. It was almost reaching out towards the path. Now, sure, yes, you know, if it was covered in moss, I probably wouldn't have noted it so much. So it is a beautiful tree. You know, we've got this beautiful light wood coming through from the bark is sort of peeled and died back, and it's barren, and there's no moss or anything growing on it like the rest of the tree. So in itself, it seems like it's trying to reach out. And it was this idea of reaching out, and whether or not that is something that I've picked up from what's in the media and what we see online and on television and the newspapers, about people desperate to reach out to other people due to our current sort of isolation that we're going through. And did that actually mean that we as photographers, indeed as people, create stories and ideas about trees and things that we see based not on just how beautiful they are to look at and how they gel with the landscape, but on how we are inside? It is the reason that I wanted to take this tree, because of what I've been seeing and what I've been affected by. Now, don't worry about me, because I'm an introvert, and if anything, this situation, apart from not being able to go out and do photography, which I desperately wanted to reach out and do, played to my strengths as an introvert. So I wasn't affected by it at all on an emotional sort of level. But other people were. Do we pick up on that as society? Have I internalized some of those thoughts and some of those ideas because it's what we see and what we hear all the time in the media? So when I saw this tree, was there a deeper connection with me? Did it have its own character? Was it telling its own story? And was the story of this tree not just the story of the tree in the landscape, but the story of humanity at this current moment in time? Okay, so I'm sorry it's getting a little bit deep today, but I just want to put this idea forward of the bigger why in the landscape. Why do we take these pictures? Why do we connect with them? Why did I bother to stop? And what compelled me to come back and make an image? And that's exactly what I'm going to do now. I'm going to make an image from this tree. When I've finished my setup and I'm ready to explain it to you, I'll show you what I'm doing. Okay, so I've finally come up with the first of my compositions. I've got to be honest, it's taken me quite a bit of time and at least one cup of coffee to actually come up with this and decide what it is I'm trying to do. There's a few challenges with this tree because I want to get in nice and close to it, and it's reaching forward, and I want to go back to the background. I want to get the background diffused if I can, but the whole of the tree sharp. So I'm going to have to use the right aperture. So what I've actually done, bracketed the aperture, and I've photographed on the branch just up here in the foreground, and that's got to be sharp. And then if it fades off slightly as it goes backwards, I'm not going to be too concerned, although I would like to have the tree reasonably sharp. Now I do want it to stand out from that background, so I really need to try and make sure that I can get that, that separation in the tonal ranges, which might be a little bit of a challenge in processing. But it's just something we'll have to work around and do the best of that we can. There's always a compromise with photography and what's actually achievable. I'm going to take some other compositions in a minute as well, but they're going to be a little bit complex to go through. And this video then would go on for absolutely forever. So if they come out, I'll show you. But this composition, basically, I'm going for shooting at about 50 mil. And I'm looking up at the tree because I wanted that lower viewpoint just to sort of have that feeling of these branches reaching down towards me. I did think I wanted it eye on and eye level, but when I did that, it made it a little bit difficult. So I had the camera right up here, and for some reason, it didn't really work quite so well. I've had to be careful again with the placement of the branches leaving the frame because they are little points of tension. And I wanted them in certain places on the sides of the frame. They're going to leave the frame, but they need to leave the frame at the right points for a very particular reason. So I'm going to just take a few more of these pictures. Then I'm going to go and show you the final image, hopefully. And there might be some bonus pictures. I really won't know till I get home and process these. So, don't leave after seeing these pictures. Stay with me. I've got more to come in a minute. I thought this composition could be improved slightly, maybe moving the tree to the side and strengthening the feeling of the branches reaching out, but I didn't want to go wide angle. I will often shoot a pano to get more into the photograph without the distortion of wide angle lenses. This is the version I'm most happy with and answers the question, why? putting the tree to one side, taking the branches to the edge of a letterbox frame, using them to lead you into the picture works. Now looks to me that it is really reaching out. So this second photograph is about the tree that's behind me, and it's to do with the idea of something being not so much invaded but trapped. And if you look at the tree, it's sort of got vines twisted around it, and all the vines appear quite dead now, and the core of the trees at the middle, the vines have still twisted its way around this tree and tried to take it over and become the dominant species. And that sort of happens as well, and it comes back to this idea of why and what's in the landscape, and is there a bigger why we take images, and why we are attracted to take certain things. And I think, following on from the last photograph, when we were talking about the idea of this tree reaching out, and the feeling that as humanity at the moment wants to reach out to each other when we're in times of need and difficulty, and we want to reach out and be free and get out in the landscape as well. The idea of this tree was more to do with that feeling of entrapment and being cocooned and something wrapped around us, maybe not in a pleasant way, but in a slightly disturbing way, that we're feeling very much that we can't break out, that our true core has been hidden by something else, and it prevents us from doing the things that we want and seeing the people that we want to see. So I'm going to set up the photograph again and take this one and show you the image. Okay, so I'll set the camera up fairly high up on the tripod again, and I've done that because I needed to get up above this branch, because including too much of the branch in the frame would have resulted in an image which was really sort of quite busy, and this would have been too distracting, and it would have drawn your eye and not worked really well. But having said all of that, it still does make a nice base for the picture and allows me to use it to create a bit of a frame and draw your eye in. Now, one of the problems I've got with the camera being up here and wanting to show the shape of the vine going up through is that I've included quite a bit of dark sky up above it. Sorry, light sky up above it, which could be a distraction because it will draw your eye and take your eye away from the vine. And I need to darken that down a little bit. Now, I've also wanted to have that background slightly out of focus, so what I've done is I've done some focus stacking as well. So I've taken images which are stacked along this branch into the tree using the aperture of f4 and the aperture of f8. And we'll see how that works out. But what I'm also going to do, and I'm going to do that now, is I'm going to take a picture at f16 as well, photograph on the tree, and I can see then if I can just use that one image instead of the focus stack ones, although it's probably going to be the focus stack versions that I use. But I'll let you know about that when I actually finally take the pictures and see what one it actually is I do. So I'm going to take that now and we'll see what we get. Yeah, so there's that picture taken at f16, and we'll try and see what that works out like and what we've actually got in there. It works reasonably well. It's not my favourite photograph of the day, but it still captures the vine twisting around and suppressing the tree. I think the light sky is a little distracting, at least the lower branch, stripped of bark, adds some balance. Did this video resonate with you? Do you, or are you going to ask why you take the photographs you do? I hope you enjoyed our short time together. Comment below, watch a few more videos, and I'll see you next time.